Hello and welcome to another one of Cavell's Cloud Conversations, where we cover everything cloud comms, cloud networking, the whole remit. We've just had our recent Microsoft event, fantastic event looking at how service providers and telecoms industry can leverage and respond to the growing importance of Microsoft in the space, not just Teams, but also more broadly. The recordings for that will be going live on our website soon. It's fantastic. Today, however, we are here to talk about Teams. I am joined by Tony Martino, CEO of Tollring. Hi, Tony. How are you doing?
Hello, Finbarr. I'm very well, thank you. How about yourself? You keeping well?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. Great
Good.
day in London. I've been wearing 3 jumpers. It's terrible, but aside from that, life is good. Now, obviously, Tollring, very well known for its comms analytics and data tools, so you're perfectly suited for this conversation. You yourself are a Microsoft Gold certified partner. As far as I remember, you've got 4 gold competency certifications this year. So, but I'm not going to talk about Tollring anymore. Why don't you tell us a bit more about Tollring?
Great, thanks for that intro, Finbarr. Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, we've focused very heavily, certainly in the recent years, on our Microsoft accreditations and competencies. We deliver our entire suite of portfolio of analytics products in the Microsoft Azure cloud, which is something we're very proud of, and our relationship with Microsoft as well. Through, as I say, the various ecosystems that we work with them through, including, as I say, Azure and our Teams application as well. So yeah, it's been a great journey for us, and certainly with Microsoft Teams, it's it's such an important collaboration tool. With the way that we are now all kind of working in this hybrid stroke work from home environment, it's become obviously a massive UCaaS platform in its own right.
Yeah, I mean, the demand for Teams has just massively skyrocketed, and obviously integrations have become a big challenge as well for Teams. How has that changed the way you yourself are developing solutions? What changes are you seeing in terms of service provider requirements? How are their customers' needs changing?
Yeah, look, I think we've all had to really, step up and react and understand how Microsoft it fits into our UCaaS world, and in our from a service provider perspective, or certainly from a software developer like ourselves. And what we've had to do is really look at how we can how we would transition, our kind of cloud-based offering into something that was much more sort of team centric. So what we decided to do was, do a ground up application that was built and designed within the Teams ecosystem, available through a very strong digital experience. And we had to do, as I say, a lot of work to kind of enter the fray with collaboration analytics in the right frame. So as I say, I think we've all had to evolve the way that we run our businesses. And certainly from a software development perspective, we've done very much the same thing.
And have you heard from the service providers that their customers are demanding specific changes, or, is that?
Well, yeah, I think from our service provider customer perspective, and obviously the end businesses, and their customers, we've just seen how users are very much living in the Teams ecosystem, and really wanted to be able to leverage the capability within Teams, and then value added services on top, but very much delivered within the experience that they're used to. And obviously we've all kind of gone through now a fairly significant change in the way we use the tools that we have available to us. And so service providers have come to us saying, it'd be really great if you could extend your analytics capabilities, very much focused around collaboration and an understanding of people and their behavior and their workloads within that sort of collaboration space.
So I guess that then obviously analytics seem to be the very important thing there for the customers. And I mean, how are those exactly enhancing the customer experience? How is that specifically working in the Microsoft space as versus how it was before?
Yeah, so whilst we've been delivering analytics, in the more traditional voice side of things, and the contact center elements, with Teams, we've started to see that really there's a lot more to understanding kind of your people engagement and your customer engagement by way of other all of the tools available to us through collaboration. So we've extended our analytics now not to just be around calling, but also have a very good understanding around our meetings, around our chat, around what sentiment we have in the business through our communications via Teams. So it's really extending the analytics across all methods of communication, both internally and externally with our customers. Obviously, that's also a growing thing where Teams collaboration was typically geared towards our own internal staff and people collaboration. It's now extended certainly within the greater ecosystem of our suppliers and our customers alike. So it's really gaining that holistic understanding of how we're communicating and being able to build the right service level understanding as well by, as I say, looking at the more holistic approach across all forms of communication.
I think maybe it would be good to just get some more practical context here, just for our listeners who maybe aren't as familiar with Tollring. Like, what sort of analytics are we talking about? How are those practically enhancing someone's day to day? I mean,
yeah. So if you look at, typically our users are if you look at your business from an understanding of what departments people sit in and what their job function is, it's really important to understand how, from a productivity perspective, from an understanding of how often and how busy we are within the tools. So it's really providing you with an understanding of individuals' work behavior with teams, within teams. So if you start thinking about things like well-being, this is a very big a topic at the moment. We're obviously working longer hours now. We're doing more, outside of the working hour. So having an understanding of things like, how many meetings are we involved in on a daily basis? How much time are we in meetings? Do we have enough break time during a normal work day? How often are we interacting with different departments? How often are we interacting with our customers? What is the average talk time that we're finding within these communications? So there's so many elements and things like, are we doing back-to-back meetings? Are our meetings overrunning? What is the experience that we're providing our colleagues and our customers by using these tools? So there's a lot of information available to us that can really enhance and give a visibility of how well we're doing as a business and how well we're looking after each other from a work perspective as well.
And there's loads of knock-on consequences like that. I mean, there's lots of research being done on fatigue from video calls and things like that. And if your workers keep saying, "I don't have time to meet my deadlines," or "I'm tired all the time," or "I just can't get there," one of the answers to that might be that you look in on them and you say, "Well, that person's in 4 hours of meetings from 9 to 1 every day. And their brain must just be fried for the rest of the,
100%. That's absolutely right. And also having an understanding of what meetings they're in. So how effective are the meetings? So are they meetings that are just with internal participants in my business? Do they have an external participation, i.e. with my customers? Is there a way that those, are they kind of regular meetings that are recurring? Are they, so there's so much within the insights there that would really allow you to run your business or your department a lot more effectively by, because again, there's good busy and bad busy, isn't there? And that's where the power of the analytics can come in. It's bringing out those insights that can really affect change in productivity and behavior and well-being, and they're the areas that we focus very heavily on. And the great thing around Teams is, and certainly within the Microsoft ecosystem, is there's a lot of really rich information that we're now kind of harnessing, and we're also able to augment against sort of other analytics elements. Again, it's providing a more a fully rounded understanding of the picture. It's no good looking at just one side of the business. You need to understand your calling and your as I say, time in meetings. There's so many facets there for you to really understand what a customer experience and a people experience looks like for you as a business.
Brilliant. I mean, it strikes me as kind of funny that if you go back 5 or 10 years, the problem was, how do we get people to make that phone call and ask the question to their colleague rather than spending an hour worrying about the thing that they could just find out? And now it's the opposite. We've got all these calls going on. How do we figure out what's going on? So I guess moving on then to, the service providers who are looking to do Teams, what's the main thing they need to be thinking about when they're enhancing their Teams offering? They've got Teams, they've got customers who are on it, people demanding it. what are the upsells? What are the things they could add on?
Yeah, look, I think from a kind of service provider perspective, we've been talking a lot about, bringing voice and calling into Teams. It's a really important part of enhancing our Teams experience. And the numbers speak for themselves. There's 150 million users on a daily basis, and whatever it is, there's some big numbers there. And so it's about really taking our experience delivering UCaaS services that we've built for many, many years now, and really making sure that we can bring that experience into what's happening now with collaboration and specifically Teams. And then making sure that we're able to offer that differentiation, because it's like anything that can become commoditized. It's about becoming the expert in delivering a well-rounded portfolio. So for us, it's the differentiation has always been key. Obviously, good service and reliability is paramount, goes without saying. But being able to really understand the customer's requirements, and going back into our topic of analytics, we see that as a really big differentiator for our service provider partners, and it always has been. So why not now think, hey, look, within the Teams piece, we need to also extend our capabilities across into that environment as well.
So you're pivoting along with the service providers to basically match the trend in the general industry.
And inform them really that this is what we're seeing, and this is where we're seeing where the opportunities lie, and then being able, as I say, to bring the services that they've offered more traditionally across into the collaboration space generally.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been very positive, but I guess in this phase where everyone has adopted Teams and things have happened that maybe they didn't plan on, are there any sort of approaches in this area you would tell people to try and avoid or advise against?
Well, I think, certainly from our own experience, we took an approach that was very much, we are not going to look to shoehorn our existing capability or applications into the Teams environment. We really took a very important decision to say, no, we're going to deliver this particular, our proposition in the right way. And I would probably just say that for us, from a service provider perspective, really have a think about how you're delivering your services into your Teams user, Teams customer, in a way that suits how they're running, their business. So think about some of those tools that you offer, and ensure that they're being delivered with the kind of future in mind, and you've got the right building blocks to really extend and expand your profile by doing the right things early on. I think because I think a lot of us can jump into the team story without perhaps having enough of a thought about how you can offer that USP against others, and deliver a much more well-rounded solution and service to the customer.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very key point, because obviously Teams is a very competitive marketplace. In some ways, you're competing against Microsoft itself for the licenses. So, as that service provider, you have to be able to provide that add-on, that upsell, that differentiator. But you don't want to saddle your customers with something that isn't going to grow with them or isn't going to provide them something extra, because then they'll resent the extra cost they're paying and it will turn against you very quickly.
It really will. That's very well put, Finbarr. Yeah, we see that very much. You can't compete. You've got a licensing element, but you've really got to see what that service wrap looks like and how you would define your USP there, because there are plenty. There's plenty of options and capability there. So it's about getting that right and understanding your USP, and then understanding obviously what your customer needs in order to build that. So and we're now looking at these value. We're seeing the kind of sizzle, that the elements that are actually going to help a business make the right decisions, be informed in the right way. The old adage of you can't manage what you can't measure is critical. And whatever we're working in, and you have to be able to measure and understand in order to improve a situation. And I think service providers just that they need to kind of have in their toolkit, the elements that are really going to make a difference to their end customer. And these are critical services that we're now starting to see being asked for. So at one point it was like, okay, let's get the technology bedded in, let's make the capability work. But now it's about what is the business productivity,
Exactly.
what's the outcome now that I'm interested in, and how am I going to be able to deliver those outcomes? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, obviously Cavell's opinion is that service providers are those people who are on the front lines with the customers, who have that connection to understand them better than, a vendor or anyone creating software from a distance does. So, that's always been our opinion. And we think that they have to leverage those relationships to drive the next step, because we've adopted Teams now. Now we have to adapt Teams to actually be what we're going to use going forwards, if that's our choice.
100% correct. And as much as, from a technology vendor perspective, we need to simplify things like buyer journeys and usability and accessibility. And, we talk about, the right information at the right time, anywhere, anytime, right? So you have to be able to empower your capability as seamlessly as possible. But like you quite rightly say, no one's going to know the customer better than you, and you've got your customer, so you've got to be able to understand what your customers require. I mean, we keep talking about things like what's your vertical play? Maybe you were a service provider, particularly interested in a particular vertical, so it's understanding how those tools can fit in with the needs of that particular customer, and aligning those, because that's there's some black magic there, some black art.
Yeah, there is
that, right? And that's where the service provider, that's where they exist. So there's plenty to be done in from a revenue perspective, and certainly from the ability to keep your customers sticky, because that's another thing. We want to retain our customers. You want to be offering these kind of services in order to do that. And if it's just empowering teams from a dialing capability or calling capability, well, you've got to be doing a lot more than that.
It works, but it's not exciting.
It's not exciting.
It's not.
Exactly.
It's not the next step. It's not what customers will stay with you for.
Exactly.
So I think that's an interesting point to sort of wrap things up on. I think we've given people a lot of stuff to think about. Teams is here to stay. There's lots of different ways we're using it. Do you really know how your customers and how their employees are using it? There's so much data that they could be gathering. Tollring could help you get some of that data. I'm sure Tony would agree with that.
Yes.
And I mean, obviously, if you have more questions about what Microsoft is doing in this space, the expansions into the telecom space, we have just had our event. There are videos and more data available on the Cavell website. So yeah, that's it. Tony, thank you so much. It's always great to have a conversation.
Lovely to talk to you, Finbarr. Thank you so much again, and good luck with the next event and the future.